going on, people? LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Summit Kaiju, and I'm your host, Leslie P. Chambers. And today we're doing a not one, but a double X Plus figure review today. Yes. One of my most favorite Godzilla designs of all time. So this will be a really good, great special review. And today we're taking a look at the X Plus 25cm and 30cm versions, Ric editions of Godzilla 1989 from his epic appearance from the epic Heisei Kaiju film, Godzilla vs. Biollante. And as you can see, I have the beautiful figures here, both the 25cm and the 30cm versions of the 1989 Godzilla, the Biogoji, you know, as we know him to be. And I have the Ric editions of these figures. And I have a mini Super X2 that came with the 25cm version. And I have a mini Rose form of Biollante that came with the 30cm version. So yes, lots to unpack in this video. But there's a couple of reasons why I want to get this video done. The first reason is this year marks the 30th anniversary of Godzilla vs. Biollante. Can y'all believe that? It's like when I made plans to do this review of these figures, and it just made me realize that once again, 30 years ago, Godzilla vs. Biollante came out. It's just crazy how time has flown by. But yes, this film turns 30 this year. As a matter of fact, it was released. It officially turns 30 December 16th of this year. Yes, December 16th, 1989, Godzilla vs. Biollante was released in theaters in Japan. And even though it wasn't a box office success, and I'll get to that later on when I talk about the film, it has gained a great audience, you know, through home video, and it's just an awesome film. It really is. It earns my highest recommendation when it comes to the Heisei films, but I'll talk more about that later on. And another reason why I'm doing this review is because recently we got some bad news, especially if you're an X Plus collector, that the upcoming gigantic version of the 1989 Godzilla unfortunately has been pushed back into April. Yes, it was originally supposed to drop at the end of this month. At the time of this recording, it is March 16th, and we were expecting the gigantic 89 from X Plus to drop late this month, but we got some bad news about around a week and a half ago, going on 2 weeks, and unfortunately, it's been pushed back to April. So because of those two reasons, I felt it was really more appropriate now to get this review out the way, because I have done a Godzilla 1989 figure review before, the 25cm version. I did a review with for him along with the 25cm light up version of Biollante, but I haven't really gotten around to make a review of the 30. So in honor, like I said, of the 30th anniversary of the film, as well as the tragic news of the gigantic 89 being pushed back, and I just figured it was really more appropriate, and it was timely for me to get these two guys out the way right now. And even though it sucks about the announcement of the gigantic 89, another reason for this review also is, like, if you have these figures as well as the Sakai's, it just makes you, I'm trying to make y'all mindful that you already have some great 89 pieces in your collection, you know. And I know we all are clamoring, we are salivating for the gigantic 89, but until, you know, he does finally drop, go back in your collections and pick up your 30cm 89 Godzilla, or pick up your 25cm version 89 Godzilla, and just be reminded why you picked him up in the first place. Because I think when it comes to X Plus, the 89 Godzilla is a design where they have done right by, you know, and let's face it, they have done their fair share of the 1989 Godzilla. I'm gonna try and go through as many as I can remember off the top of my head. I won't give out release dates like I normally do. Go to kaijuedits.com to know more about release dates and blah blah blah. But to my knowledge, maybe y'all can pipe down in the comment section of those I may have missed or I forgot, or I may forget to mention. But for those who don't know, at the top of my head, they have made a 25cm version of the 89 Godzilla standard. The Ric version of that figure is one that I have here with the mini Super X2. That's two releases right there. They've made a 25cm version of the '89 Godzilla with two of Biollante's vines going through him to signify what happened towards the tail end of the film. That's a third release. I think it was a Ric Exclusive release. I'm not really sure, but I do know that exists. I just mentioned the 25cm light up version that came with the Biollante set. I think that came out I think in 2015, I believe. So that's 4. And that's all I can remember far as the 25cm versions. Now, don't tip over Godzilla. Now, the 30cm version came out with this one, and that's the standard. The Ric Boy version of this figure is one that I have here with the Biollante, mini form of Biollante. I think that's 6 so far. They came out with a diamond reissue version of the 30cm Biollante, which is 7. They have come out with this same version of Godzilla with the mini rose form of Biollante. They reissued this whole thing in a solid package late 2017, but it came with a darker paint scheme on Godzilla, and it came with the light up, and it also came with the rose form of Biollante. So that's what, 8. They made an RMC version of this version of the 30cm Biollante. That's 9. And if you count the Sakai's, they made 30cm Sakai with the open mouth, and they did a diamond reissue figure, or diamond reissue release of that figure. Then they made the closed mouth version that came out late last year with the Mini Super X2, and there was also a light up, and it was a standard version of that as well. So I think altogether, that's what, 11 to 12 versions of the 1989 Godzilla that X Plus has ever done. Trust me, I think X Plus is good on 89. Not to mention the upcoming Gigantic, and they have not made one for the Favorite Sculptors line or the Defo Reel, but you got to know at some point those two are coming. But when it comes to 89 releases, I count at least 10 to 12 between the 25cm, the 30, and the Sakai. Which I can understand, because I think the 89 is really popular in Japan. I think the Toho has at least adopted that as like the official version of Godzilla, like the official look of Godzilla, which I can understand that, because it is a powerful looking version of Godzilla. No, nothing against the show or nothing against the Millennium or anything like that, but I can understand that from a certain extent. Now, as far as favorite designs, this guy comes in like number 7 or 8 on my list, on my top favorite Godzilla designs. So with that being said, once again, X Plus has done a great job with all their Sakai 30cm and 25cm 89 releases. I wasn't too high up on the original 30cm Sakai, but they made up for it with the more recent closed mouth version. So with that being said, X Plus has done a phenomenal job with their versions of the Godzilla 1989. Can't say the same with other Godzilla incarnations where they have made multiple figures from different lines of the same Godzilla, like the 62, the 25cm is not so good in my opinion. The 30 is awesome. The Gigantic is awesome. The Burning Godzilla, the Gigantic is awesome. The 30 is awesome. The 25cm, not so much, you know. So this is just a few examples where X Plus has not been a home run with a certain Godzilla design. But when it comes to the 89, the 64, and Shin, for that matter, they have done a great job with every figure that they have released when it comes to those Godzilla designs. But once again, it's about the 89. We're going to celebrate the 89 now. Like I said, if you have this one, the 25cm, the 30, or the Sakai's, you know, that hopefully will whet your appetite or just make you more appreciative, and at least will keep you going a little bit while longer until we get our hands on the Gigantic 89. So that's it with the backstory about the 89 and X Plus. And I got the 25cm through eBay. I got the 30cm through a great friend of mine, Burley Vang. That's how I come into possession with these figures. Now, so let's get up close and personal with these figures, and I'll just provide inserts through the duration of this portion of the video. But both versions of Godzilla, charcoal gray type of skin, great highlights on the skin of Godzilla's body here on both figures, really. The difference between the two, well, there's a few differences, really. The dorsal plates are sculpted really, really well, almost perfect, and they're almost identical between the two figures. Now, the 30 centimeter has more of an off bone white, dirty bone white color on his dorsal plates. The 25 has more of a whitish color, you know. The paint job on the toenails are pretty much identical, kind of like a dirty bone white, like the paint scheme on the 30 centimeter dorsal plates. As you can see, as far as the tails are concerned, the tails are really, really long, and they're sculpted really, really well. His claws, same thing, off bone white color on both. They have done a great job with both of these releases. Now, both of them are kind of look like they're in stride, like they're about to take a step, either going towards maybe Biollante or maybe the military or the Super X2. And I like these dynamic poses in these figures. Of course, it's nice to have figures with Godzilla standing stationary, just upright, you know. But I like those figures that have more of a dynamic expression in their sculpts or in their posture. And both versions of the '89 Godzilla here have done a great job expressing that, you know. Let's see what else. The faces are amazing. Here's like one of the major differences between the two figures. The '89 25 centimeter looks exactly like the '89. You know, he does. You know, and they're both '89 figures, really. But the 25 centimeter version looks more like the suit. Now, with the 30 centimeter, and I've said this numerous occasions, many times before, to me, the 30 centimeter comes across like the 91. You know, if you really look at the figure in the face as far as the 30 centimeter is concerned, you know, with his eyes looking real menacing like that, with his gums popping out, kind of looks like the shark from Jaws 3. Remember the shark from Jaws 3 that had those gums just sticking out and those razor sharp teeth on both both jaws, the upper and the lower. This one kind of has that going on, kind of like the 91. The chest is even somewhat more chiseled and more defined and more buffed up with the 30. So in my opinion, the 30 can really pass for a 91 in certain angles or in certain respects. That's what that's what I see when I see the 30 centimeter version. You know, he kind of looks like the 91. And also one thing that the 91, excuse me, see, there I go. One thing about the 30 centimeter that I do like is the fact that it comes with an articulated jaw where you can open and close it. And that's something I wish that a lot of more X Plus figures would really incorporate, you know, because it's amazing how Godzilla's jaw can have a great expression on his face when it's open, but yet can have a completely different expression on his face when it's closed. Like the Sakai 89 that I just mentioned. Like I said, the original 30 centimeter Sakai, I really didn't like it that much because of the teeth looking like he's been eating chocolate or drinking coffee for 40 years straight. That's the main reason why I didn't like the original 30 centimeter Sakai. However, when they came out with the more recent version of the closed mouth one, I like that one better. I really do. I like it better how his mouth is closed and the dirtiness on the teeth are not so apparent. Now, I'm not trying to say that Godzilla should have pearly white teeth. I'm not saying that. But in that figure's case, at least the original 30 centimeter version, the first version, it's just the teeth was it was off. I just didn't like it. But they made up for it with the recent, you know, release version, like I said, of the closed mouth. So my point is that I just wish that S Plus would incorporate it this articulated jaw in their sculpts, not make it a separate piece where you have to take out the open jaw and replace it with the closed mouth jaw like that disaster with the gigantic 64. Hopefully the gigantic 89, because that one I believe is going to have the same type of gimmick where you have to exchange the jaws to present him in an open mouth pose, or a closed mouth pose, you know. But I think that could be eliminated if they just go with this release right here, or at least go with this setup right here, where you can open the jaw, open and close it at will, you know. But between the two figures, I love them both. Don't get me wrong, but I love the 30 centimeter version better. I really do. Once again, it's just a great figure, and it has great presence on the shelf. And it looks exactly like the 89. Or like I said, in some respects, he looks like the 91. Not trying to sell the 25 centimeter version short either, because this is a great figure in its own right. Whether you have this one, now the one that has the vines going through it, that's awesome, man. I wish I would have got my hands on that at some point. Or the light up version. I had that, but I sold it to my great friend Godzilla here on YouTube, Butch Bollinger, and I got this one instead. But the 25cm versions 25cm versions of the 89 Godzilla is great, and once you pair him with the 25cm Biollante, even Godzilla is a little bit bigger than what he should be for like size, you know, in the film, because in the film Biollante was like twice as big as Godzilla. And when you put the 25cm 89 up against the 25cm Biollante, he does scale well, but maybe just a little bit too big. I think the SH Monster Arts 89 Godzilla, with him being like 7 or 8 inches tall, from what I understand, he actually poses better with the X Plus Biollante, but I ain't trying to sell this guy short. Once you put this guy up against Biollante, it looks really great. Now, you can put the 30cm up against Biollante, but even that is stretching it. You know, Godzilla is way bigger than what he should be once you put him up against her. But 25cm version, I love him because of the fact that he scales well with Biollante. Once you put those two together, it's really an awesome image. It really is an awesome image, which I'll provide inserts of that as I go along here. That'll be the size comparison portion of this video. Cause I know after I finish talking about the ins and outs of the figure in the first part of the video, I tend to go to size comparisons. But to eliminate all that, I'll just provide inserts of the size comparison go along to kind of speed things up, considerably. But yes, the 25cm 89 Godzilla looks so amazing. Now the 30cm version of Godzilla, once again, another amazing piece. And honestly, nowadays, I actually put this figure, for like size comparisons, I actually put him up against the my 30cm Mecha Godzilla from X Plus. And even though when you put these two together, they look awesome, and even though it's not the same Godzilla from the film of Godzilla Mecha Godzilla 1993, in my opinion, Mecha Godzilla from 93 is more patterned after the 91. If you really look at that version of Mecha Godzilla, he has more of a buffed up chest. He has a long neck, you know. And to me, it's more patterned after the 89. Now, Godzilla at that point, we all know about this. He got a little bit chunkier. They increased the dorsal plates on the back of his back as well as his neck, where his neck is not seemingly too long. You know, it doesn't appear too long. And he kind of looks kind of stout with all those dorsal plates on his back, kind of like the anime Godzilla. But if you look at Mecha Godzilla, he does, you know, with the long neck and the buffed up chest, like I mentioned, he does kind of look like the 89 or the 91. So until they give us a proper 93, I actually put my 30cm Godzilla 1989 up against Mecha Godzilla and just have somewhat of a fantasy matchup. You know, it's still Godzilla. You know, at the end of the day, it's still the Heisei version of Godzilla, even though it's not the appropriate version of Godzilla. But the effect, I think it works. So both figures are really, really amazing, and I'm glad I got them. Thank you, Burley, and thank you to that person I got the 25cm version on eBay. I really do appreciate it. Now let's go into the Ric pieces of this of these figures, excuse me, and let's start with the 25cm version. The 25cm version comes with the Mini Super X2, and it looks great. It's an exact replica of the ship that fought Godzilla in Godzilla versus Biollante. Army green all over its all over the ship. Really has the logo Super X2 on both sides, and it looks really, really good. It looks really, really good. Now they did reissue this as a Ric Boy piece with the recently released Sakai 89 closed mount that I mentioned earlier, but that one has more of a lighter shade of green, and it comes with the fire mirror that's open, which is awesome. But this is a great piece in its own right. And this is what I've been hunting down for a long time, because I made no bones about the fact that between the Super X's in the Heisei series, the Super X2 is my favorite. Nothing against the original version, and nothing against the Super X3, but between the three, I don't know why, I just like the Super X2 better out of all three of them. But S Plus has done a great job with this mini version of the Super X2, and I really do love it. Now let's go into probably my favorite Ric Boy piece between the two figures, and that's this mini version of the Rose form of Biollante. And that's a monster design that I feel doesn't get talked about that much. everybody tends to gravitate towards the bigger, more evolved, the crocodile-like version of Biollante, which is awesome, you know, and that's an awesome monster, awesome design, awesome look, very dangerous looking. It's kind of hard to believe when you look at Godzilla and Biollante square off that in the end, Biollante is really the underdog. But lost in the shuffle, I feel, is the rose form of Biollante, and X Plus has done a great job with this mini replica version of the rose form of Biollante. And I've said this a couple times before, and I have no problem saying it again here. I just wish, hopefully, sometime this year, to coincide with the 30th anniversary of Godzilla's Biollante, because like I said, we got the gigantic 89, and that's very timely, and that's coming sometime next month, hopefully in April. But obviously they're releasing the 89 gigantic to coincide with the 30th anniversary of the film. I hope they're not done with Biollante this year. I hope they're not done with the film. So it's my hope at some point they can make a 30cm version, Ric version, you know, if you want to go that route, a Ric exclusive version of the rose form of Biollante, have him square off against the 30cm 89 Godzilla. That would be amazing. Now the reason why I would say just make it a Ric version, like the Fire Rodan that came out late last year, and the upcoming Mecha King Ghidorah that's coming. I don't have any proof that the Mecha King Ghidorah may be a Ric exclusive. I think it will be, but I'm just speculating here. My point is that when it comes to like the Fire Rodan, Mecha King Ghidorah, which are basically alternate versions of already existing kaijus, Rodan and King Ghidorah respectively, with the rose form of Biollante not being as celebrated or wanted by a lot of people as maybe the bigger version, I can see S Plus doing this as a Ric version, you know, that way only a niche market would, you know, go after this piece. But if you offer like the standard and the Ric, which would be good, you know, you run a risk of a lot of people maybe pre-ordering it or not being too sold on it, and then maybe at the last minute jumping bail on them pre-order. So how about making a Ric exclusive where you know you can sell, or at least make a pre-order of a certain amount that you can make, and then if the demand is there, then maybe at some point reissue this as a standard and put something else with the Ric to make a more desirable Ric. But I think at some point we need a rose form of Biollante. We do. And like I said, don't make it a 25 because we got Biollante for the 25cm version of the 89 Godzilla. Make a 30cm version of the rose form of Biollante to go against the 30cm version of Godzilla 1989. Because I have to say, Godzilla, this version of Godzilla, he's been very lonely, you know? He's been very lonely. That's why I put him with Mecha Godzilla. But I think a rose form of Biollante, 30cm version, make it a Ric version, that would be great. That would get a lot of pre-orders in my opinion. I know the rose form of Biollante has like a couple of moment versions that a lot of people are loving right now, that they have gone after and went gaga for. But I think a proper X Plus version of the rose form of Biollante, would be awesome. No different than what they did with the Ric exclusive edition of Kamunga. Remember that came with a web base that had wrapped up Kamacuras embedded into the base. And later on, they end up making a full-fledged 25cm Kamacuras figure out of that, you know. The same thing here. Make a 30cm version of the rose form Biollante. That would be awesome. And hopefully they can get that done sometime this year to coincide with the anniversary of Godzilla vs. Biollante. But these two figures are great. They're awesome. I just love them. I love them both. Once again, it's one of my favorite Godzilla designs, and these are two of my favorite Heisei figures in my collection. And once again, if you have them, just go back. Be reminded why you got them in the first place, you know. And like I said, I know it sucks about the 89 gigantic being pushed back, but if you have these as well as the Sakai's, go back in your collection and admire them. And like I said, be reminded of why you got them in the first place. And they are really top quality pieces, courtesy of X Plus. All right, so since I've already gone with the ins and outs of the figure, the backstory and blah, 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 as well as the size comparison with the insert, stuff like that, I'm going to talk about my top 5 reasons why I love Godzilla vs. Biollante. Now, Godzilla vs. Biollante is on my top 10 favorite Godzilla films list as well. Like I mentioned, the 89 Godzilla design is on my top 10 favorite Godzilla designs list. But Biollante is on my top 10 favorite Godzilla films list of all time. I believe it comes at number 7, I believe. Yes, I think yeah, it's number 7. Yes, it's number 7. While the 89 for its designs, I believe it's like number 7 or 8, 1 or 2. But it's up there, you know. And let's go into the first reason why I love Godzilla versus Biollante. Godzilla himself. I love this look of Godzilla. And I said this many times before, when I see this version of Godzilla, he kind of looks like Titanosaurus. He has that Titanosaurus structure. And everybody knows I love Titanosaurus. It's one of my favorite Godzilla villains of all time, especially from the 70s. But I like how they took this version of Godzilla and kind of like took the Titanosaurus structure with his neck being all long. This dorsal plate kind of looks like Titanosaurus fish tail back thingy on his back. You know, the way the dorsal plates are arranged on his back here kind of looks like Titanosaurus fishtail with the buffed up chest, like Titanosaurus who had a buffed up chest. And once again, I love this design. I really do. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't use the 84 Godzilla for this movie. And don't get me wrong, I love the 84 too. He's on my top 10 favorite Godzilla designs also. But I think the 84 probably wouldn't have worked for this story. It wouldn't have worked for Godzilla versus Biollante, with him having to fight another monster, even though there wasn't really too many close encounter combat. You know what I mean? And with 1984 being such a darker story, that version of Godzilla worked for that particular story. It's no different, like, you know, it wouldn't look right if Shin Godzilla was used for Godzilla vs. Gigan. You see what I'm saying? But I believe for this story, for him fighting Biollante, this was a great design to use. And honestly, it was a design that would end up being Godzilla's look throughout the remainder of the Heisei period, even though it was tweaked and modified along the way. You know, with him having more dorsal plates, him having more of a bigger and chunkier underbody, you know. But it all started with this design. So that's why I love this design, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I love Godzilla vs. Biollante. Number 2, Biollante. Yes, I love this monster. I love the figures. You know, they have done a great job, S-Plus-wise, with their versions of Biollante. Hopefully they can get that 30cm Rose form that I talked about earlier. But as far as a monster is concerned, and I know a lot of folks tend to crap on Biollante. Because she's so big, she's not as mobile as like a Gigan. Or she's not as interesting or has a lot of firepower, let's say, to show a Mechagodzilla. And I know a lot of folks just don't really seem to get behind this monster. Now, I will say that she could have been better utilized. I will admit that. But as far as like a monster, she really does have a great design, you know, and even though she doesn't really, well, she kind of slows Godzilla down. She doesn't really stop him per se. Godzilla kind of like goes through her both times in a way. It just took the combination of her attacks and the anti-nuclear energy bacteria really to slow Godzilla down. Biollante didn't do it alone. But with that being said, her appearance, and especially her final appearance, make up for the lack of action involving Biollante. And once again, I think this was a great monster. And it's too bad that we never saw her again in any other movie, you know. But once again, that kind of makes Godzilla vs. Biollante even special. That you have to go to this film to see this awesome monster. And even though a lot of people tend to crap on her, tend to look down upon her, and like I said, even though I feel she could have been utilized even better, I think her appearance was really, really awesome. I really do. You know, they could have done more, but at the same time, with her being so big, you know, so bulky, there's only so much that they could have done. And that's another reason why I see why I will defend this film, because I know a lot of folks don't really like the fight scenes involving Godzilla vs. Biollante. They don't feature the knockdown, drag out affair as you would see like in Megalon or Titanus or Terra Mechagodzilla, excuse me. But my defense of that is like both Godzilla and Biollante are so big and so bulky that Godzilla couldn't pick up Biollante and throw her around or body slam her. So they made up for it with just, you know, beam attacks, ray attacks, Biollante using her dangerous vines to impale Godzilla or maim Godzilla. For what they did with Biollante, you know, I really do enjoy it. I think that she's a really credible monster. It's too bad we haven't seen her since then. But once again, that's the beauty of Godzilla versus Biollante, is really Biollante herself. Number 3, Mika Sagusa, my favorite character of all time in these Godzilla films. And of course, they have been great human characters in these Godzilla movies. Katsura from Terror Mechagodzilla, the Planet X Controller from Invasion of Astro Monster. Who else? Steve Martin from the original Godzilla. Dr. Hayashida from Godzilla 1985. Just great characters. Dr. Serizawa from the original Godzilla. They have been great human characters throughout these films. Now, of course, I know we watch these films for the monster action, but as I've gotten older, I have grown more appreciative of the human story that precedes the monster action. And throughout it all, there have been some great characters, human characters, throughout these Godzilla films that have left a lasting impression upon all of us. Which is why when they come to these conventions, we're right there front and center to see them, get the autograph, learn stories from them. And Miki Sagusa is by far my favorite actress or actor from these Godzilla films, played by the beautiful Megumi Adaka, who was at G-Fest last year, and I happened to see her there. Great, awesome person, awesome lady. And just by far, her longevity in these films, in the Heisei films, starting with Biollante, ending with Destroyer. The whole beauty about the Heisei films is that it's like one big story arc, you know. Whereas the Millennium series are kind of like basically individual reboot stories off the original Godzilla 1954. So almost every entry is like a film that exists in and of itself, right? With the Showa series, there's continuity here and there, but it kind of jumps all over the place where it's not fluid and it's not consistent. The Heisei films is one big solid story arc, you know, from film to film to film to film to film. And even though she wasn't in Godzilla 1985, I think she did a great job in Godzilla vs. Biollante, where they introduced her as a psychic person that has this bond with Godzilla. And I know on the surface, on paper, that idea kind of comes across a bit silly, even though at this point they were trying to present Godzilla in a more serious and more realistic manner. They were trying to get away from the silliness that the Showa series did in certain areas. But I think for that particular character, for that particular role, she nailed it. She nailed it in Godzilla vs. Biollante, which is why we were able to really just identify with her and just take that ride with her as she went from film to film to film to film to film, where she started out as a sidekick that has this bond with Godzilla that really had no emotional attachment to the creature. But as we see, as Godzilla would go up against King Ghidorah, Monster, Mechagodzilla, Space Godzilla, and Destroyer, she went from being just a naive psychic girl with no attachment to Godzilla to end up feeling for the creature at the very end, you know? So it's kind of sad when we see Godzilla die at the end of Godzilla vs. Destroyer. That would be the last time we would see Miki Sagusa, which is kind of sad. But at the same time, you have all these other films to watch her in, and she's done a great job. But I think without her performance in Godzilla vs. Biollante, you know, it would have been kind of harder for us to buy this person as this psychic person that has a bond with Godzilla. And I go one step further. It probably would have been hard for us to accept Asagi in the Gamera films. Because remember, Asagi in the Heisei Gamera film, she has a psychic bond with Gamera, which I would suggest and argue, which was heavily inspired by the Miki Sagusa character. So I think if Miki Sagusa or Megumi Adaka didn't do a good job with this type of role in Godzilla vs. Biollante, then it probably would have made the other films kind of fall apart, especially when she was involved. So that's one of the main reasons why I love Godzilla vs. Biollante as well. Megumi Adaka, also known as Miki Sagusa, my favorite character in these Godzilla films. Number 4. Super X2, and I know I went into this earlier when I talked about the mini replica version of the X Plus Super X2. But once again, that is my favorite out of all the Super X's, and I don't know. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and explain why. I think because the reason why I like this version more than the other two is that this one seems like it was built to fight Godzilla. However, with that being said, I will say that this one comes off to me as the weakest of the three, you know. I like the original Super X, you know. I love the Super X2. The Super X3, it's okay. And it's kind of ironic, out of all the three of them, Super X3 was the one to survive at the end of a Godzilla film. The other two just just got destroyed, you know, whatever. At least the original Super X was able to stop Godzilla, at least momentarily. So the Super X2 kind of does, but it doesn't stop him enough to really make a difference. However, I do love the fact that unlike the other two Super X's, this one is kind of like a drone. It doesn't have to have people inside of the ship itself to operate it, you know? They can operate it from by remote control. Like I said, like a giant drone. And the fact that it can travel in the air, it can be, it can travel in water. You know, it had the potential to be a whole lot more than what it was, more so than the other Super X's. But I think, like I said, the fact that this one was really specifically made to fight Godzilla, you know, with the fire mirror and all that good stuff. And I like that really kind of suggests that, because this film takes 5 years after the events of 1984 or Godzilla 1985. I like how it kind of suggests that Godzilla, or at least the people of Japan, was like, okay, Godzilla's in Mount Mahara, but at some point we don't know if he's dead or not. You know what I mean? He may come back. So if and when that does happen, we need to have all these plans in place. That's why I love the protocols that they have, you know, with the alarm system. But they went one step further, like, look, we need a bigger, better Super X2 to fight Godzilla. And I just love how they took all these extra precautions to prepare for his eventual return. And with the Super X2, it really enlightens the viewer about that. And it was really like a shade of things to come, because the Heisei film series featured a lot of weapons as far as mechas and military advancement when it came to these weapons. You know, with Super X, Super X2, Mecha Godzilla, Garuda, Megara, the Maser cannons, you know, Super X3. You know, the Heisei series has great weapons, great military vehicles, great destructive opposition to fight these monsters, other than Godzilla himself, you know. But out of all of them, the Super X2 is my favorite, and that's one of the main reasons why I love Godzilla's Biollante as well, the Super X2. Even though it got defeated really well, I'm not going to lie, it got defeated really well, but I think the concept behind Super X2 is really amazing. And I think, like I said, the main reason why I love Super X2 over the other two is the fact that it was made to fight Godzilla, which had some really interesting scenes when those two got together. So once again, one of the main reasons why I love Godzilla's Biollante, the Super X2. And number 5, the main reason, or at least my last reason I should say, why I love Godzilla's Biollante, is the fact that it's a great Godzilla story. It's a solid Godzilla film from beginning to end. Godzilla doesn't wait too long to get on screen as he did in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, or they don't really oversaturate him, or too many appearances from him like you would see in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. They kept him off. They kept him out of the movie as long as they could, but when he does show up, everything just starts rolling really at a fast pace, and it's action from beginning to end. You know, once again, I always have said that my favorite film from the Heisei period, selfishly, is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. But I wouldn't recommend that to, like, the casual fan, because that film takes a lot and takes a long time for the action to get going. Godzilla doesn't really truly appear in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah until like the hour mark, and then the movie's over like 30 minutes after that point. So in my opinion, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah was made more so to cater to Godzilla fans. So I wouldn't recommend it. And besides the fact it has, you know, some issues with it, you know, which I can understand and forgive and look past. I know a lot of folks may not be able to do that. There are a lot of Godzilla fans that don't even look past the problems that Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, even though it's my favorite. That's why I say that out of all the Heisei films, and there are great Heisei films to choose from to suggest to a kaiju newbie. 1984, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, you know? Maybe Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which I've heard is probably the best the Heisei films have to offer. I don't really agree with that, honestly. It's a great film, or a good film, I should say. I think the one that I think everybody should go out their way to try and watch, and the one that I would recommend to a kaiju newbie is Godzilla vs. Biollante. It features a great story. You know, it's kind of a continuation of the events of Godzilla 1985. You know, it features, even though it's called Godzilla vs. Biollante, him fighting Biollante is not the meat and potatoes of the film. It's really about Japan now having to deal with Godzilla a second time back in the 80s. and now realizing that basically Godzilla is here to stay, and how the people of Japan or the world would have to deal with that, which led into the other films. So my point is that for a film like this, so solid, so amazing, great special effects, you know, it just earns my highest recommendation. It really does. Which one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier, it still baffles me to this day that this film didn't have the box office success that it should have, you know? Because it was a really ambitious film. You know, it didn't feature like an old kaiju or revamped kaiju from Godzilla's past. It doesn't feature the knockdown, drag out, entertainer kaiju battles that we're all used to or accustomed to. But for the story, the special effects, you know, the introduction of Mikasagusa, you know, the reaction of the Japanese people of Godzilla being back now, it's just a really solid film. It really is a solid film. And once again, it earns my highest recommendation. So if you have not seen this film, please go out your way and try to find this film. You can find it maybe on Amazon. I saw a couple of copies in Best Buy not too long ago. The Blu-ray version, I believe it's from, I think it's from Mill Creek. I could be wrong about that. Mill Creek, it's not Anchor Bay, I don't think. Or it could be. But anyways, the movie is out right now. You can find it, and like I said, I saw them at Best Buy in like in those bargain bins for like $5 to $10, which is a good price for this awesome film. So if you haven't seen this film, please go out your way and try to watch it. You will not be disappointed, and just have a good time with this awesome Heisei Godzilla film, Godzilla versus Biollante. You know? So that pretty much concludes my review of my double figure review of the X Plus Godzilla 1989 Ric versions, of the 25cm version, as well as the 30cm version that came with the mini Super X2 and the mini Rose Form Biollante from his epic, iconic Heisei film appearance in the epic Heisei Godzilla film, Godzilla versus Biollante. You have any questions, holler me down in the comment section, or hit me up on Facebook via Leslie P. Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, great figures. Yes, once again, I know it sucks about the 89. Trust me, I feel ya. I feel ya. You know, but it made me just realize, you know what? We got other great 89 pieces, you know. I know it sucks to wait, but you know what? It's also good to go back and see what you have accomplished collecting-wise, you know. And these are great pieces, not to mention the Sakai's, especially the closed mouth version. But yes, X Plus has done a phenomenal job with these two pieces, and it just makes me even more excited on when we will get that upcoming gigantic 89. But until then, these will hold me down for right now, and they should hold you down too. But at the same time, if you can find these figures for a good price, whether it's on eBay, Mandarake, you know, as a matter of fact, with the gigantic 89, I've seen a lot of people actually starting to dump their previous 89 X Plus pieces, you know, to prepare for the 89. That's what sometimes collectors do. Whenever a new figure is coming out, sometimes they will dump an already older version of that figure, of that same Godzilla design or creature design, to get the money to get the upcoming new one. So I've been seeing a lot of folks actually been posting theirs online for sale, and they have not been bad prices, you know. So if you can find this one, the 25cm 89 Godzilla, or the 30cm version, or if you can get your hands on the Ric version of these pieces, as well as the Sakai's, or like I said, the reissue of the 30cm with the darker paint job and the light up dorsal plates, whatever. If you can get your hands on an 89 piece from X Plus, trust me, you will not be disappointed, and these two will earn my highest recommendation. So I thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on next figure move review. All right, y'all take it easy.